Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today we get an opportunity to work on a reel I haven't worked on before. It's a Shimano reel. It's the 1500 HG Ocean Jigger. And this one's actually set up very much like an Avette or an accurate type of a reel. And well, we're going to show you how to work on that today. How to take it apart, service it, and well, keep it running for a long time to come. This one comes in from Rob. And well, we're just going to show you how to do it. One of the things I noticed as I'm testing this one is it's sticking. Interestingly enough, there's too much line on this reel. This reel is, well, you can see where we tied the shock. And when that shock comes around, it's bumping on the base here. So you should never overload your line. It has two issues behind that. One of them is this. It'll just kind of impede the performance. The second one is, with a lot of overloaded line, it gets trapped behind the spool, and then you got to go take the time to take it off and make it work correctly. Well, we're going to take this reel apart. We'll show you how the reel is made, how to service it, how to keep it fishing for a long time to come. We're going to start by removing the exterior pieces. As I do, I want to encourage you to do a couple of things. One of them is to take some pictures along the way. Those pictures will let you know the way that you disassembled the reel, and that'll prove invaluable when it comes time to reassembling the reel. The second thing I would encourage you to do is, well, wear some protective gear from time to time. I do as a practice. I don't ever know when these reels are going to be overloaded with something that, well, I would prefer to keep off my hands. I do use a vinyl glove, and well, I use it on my non-dominant hand, my left hand. The right one, I just can't seem to manage to do that very well. So I do what I can to kind of keep it safe. The other one I want to encourage you to do is subscribe to my channel. If you like the art of reel repair, if you like how to service reels, like to see how reels are made, maybe you're considering them, like to be involved in a forum that kind of talks about reels and the like, then I would encourage you to subscribe to the channel. If you do subscribe to the channel, please use the notification button. That'll let you know when I'm working on it. This reel uses one of these press down and engage type of star drags. You'll notice that there's a square under there. There's a spring. And there's a star adjuster nut. And then there's a series of tension washers that hold together on the outside. I had just done a Daiwa Saltist 15H, and it has a very similar type of a setup. There's also a little bearing, I believe, a little shim washer here for the bearing, and well, we'll just play around with that when it comes out. Sometimes it's easy to remove, sometimes it's not. Well, here we go. There's two of them actually on here, and we can pull them up, take a picture, know the sequence. If you get lost in your sequence, if you're watching this because you've had one of those moments where something got away from you and you don't remember it and you're trying to recover here, that's okay. Maybe we'll show it to you. But if not, one of the things that will be helpful is to go get a schematic. And this schematic should be available online. There's multiple sources. If you just put in Shimano 1500 HG or Shimano Ocean Jigger, you should be able to work with that. This has a Torx screw on it that are holding them in. It seems that a lot of the manufacturers have gone to that as an alternative today, and I'm not quite sure which one it is. I just happen to have that one out from the last one, and well, it's a little bit of a guessing game here. I guess I'll just kind of work down through it until I find the right one. Try the 8. Yeah, looks like the 8. There you go, and we can remove these. I'm going to take a paper towel here just to absorb some of the penetrating oil that's falling off the side. These have little cup washers on them to act as an additional water seal. When you take them out, remember they are there. A lot of manufacturers use that. The Penn spinning wheels pretty much all come with them on them. Just don't lose them. As he says that, he pulls up the paper towel. Okay, 2 more of these and we should be able to remove the gear side, which is the whole business side of this reel. This is a nice casting reel, and as it's called, it's an Ocean Jigger reel. You do not have a level wind on this reel. This is a straight up conventional reel. Alright, all 4 of those side plate screws are the same, so I'm going to put them in a parts tray. I recommend that you have a system for dealing with the parts that you remove. Mine is just a fast food container. I use the individual corners of that to set aside sub-assemblies so that I can make it easy to find when it's time to reinstall. 4 screws are out. We should be able to remove the side plate. We are. And golly, if this doesn't look exactly like the Daiwa that I had just done. Internally, it has that same setup for that hard backing on the bridge. Let's take our piece off. And this is where you can see how that whole piece is overloaded. And Rob, I'm going to just cut this off because you need to remove some line. The other thing about it is when you go to reload, you can tell that there's too much line on here because the line is bumping into the side frame on the reinstall. This probably will be too thick to put it back together again, but we're going to try. We'll see if it gets stuck that way. There's a bearing in the case. I've tested the reel performance-wise. They're okay. The bearings aren't seized or noisy or anything. Oil the bearing. Oil the back. There's a bearing on this side of the spool. Oil that. There's no bearing on this side. So just set this back into the case. Let the oil seep into the bearings. And set that sub-assembly aside because, well, we don't need to do anything with that. Alright, now we have some screws, 1, 2, 3, 4 screws holding the assembly on for the bridge. You should be able to take these out with a micro screwdriver. This is a Phillips head screw, so I'm using a micro here. So you've seen a couple of tools that, well, from time to time most of us don't have if we're just kind of casual. You may want to go to Harbor Freight or someplace else, pick up an inexpensive set of micro drivers. You will find that from time to time you'll be working on a reel that utilizes these very small screws. And well, if you need to make an investment like I did here in this Torx screwdriver set, this one happens to be by Milwaukee, go ahead and do that too. But you can also find the Torx screws in a multi-bit set, and that's the one that has the single driver with the short bits. They run about $12 or $13 for like a 64-bit set, including the driver handle, and most of the common used Torx screws are included in those sets. So go ahead and do that as well. And you can use no-name tools. I'm not here to promote expensive tools if you're only going to use them on occasion. So just let them go. 4 screws there. We should be able to bring this whole assembly through from the back now. I'm going to lay that down, bring this up, and the first thing I would like to do is to take a picture. And my gosh, if this doesn't look exactly like the Saltist that I just did. A little bit of enough of a change that it's not the Saltist, but we were talking about this one on the Saltist video earlier. This is a setup that Shimano uses on the Torium and others. It's got a plastic carrier for the cam that releases your jack and your free spool, and well, that's the common failure point on those Toriums. Initially, this looks like a bearing on the inside here. We made a point on that Saltist video saying that was a bushing and you could probably upgrade it to a bearing. And again, Daiwa competes with Shimano, so in no way would I expect to see that they're almost identical, but quite honestly, they're almost identical. 2 yoke springs, I like to remove them right away. Put them safely into my parts tray so that they don't shoot. This is the inner collar for the anti-reverse clutch. Notice it has 2 tags on it. And here's that lower shim for the bearing. put those in there. Now we can remove the main gear assembly. We can remove our click ratchet. We can remove the yoke and the pinion gear. And I mentioned this on the other one. You could, if you wanted to, remove the jack assembly. This has got an extra bearing here too. So we're going to oil that bearing. I'm going to move that jack up. I'm going to oil this bearing as well. So this has 2 more bearings than the Saltus does if you're comparing which is which. Make sure that all your pieces and parts are clean. These are clean. If you wanted to do a little bit more, you could spray it down with a penetrating oil, use a cotton swab or cloth or the like. Right now this is demonstration purposes. The inside of this is just plain clean, but if it wasn't clean, make sure that it is clean before you go to reinstall. To service your pinion gear and yoke, the yoke has 2 different sides to it. One has got a ramp on it and one is flat-sided. The ramp is going to face inward. Your pinion gear, you want to check all of the teeth to make sure that they're uniform and clean. These are. There's a nice pattern to them all, which would say that it operates nice and smooth. If they're not clean, clean them out. Use a fine brush, use some penetrating oil, use other things to get rid of the dirt and debris, and then give it a good coating of fishing wheel grease. When you go to reinstall, that angular side of that upper part of the yoke faces in, and then you can just put that right back over the 2 studs, and that back end of the pinion gear will protrude through the hole. We're going to do the same thing here now. We're going to grab that click ratchet. That click ratchet has got a stud on the back of it that's going to knock the trip lever up. So this is an automatic restore on the trip. Doesn't have an anti-reverse dog as a backup on this one. Clean off your main gear. Your main gear has got a click ratchet in it, got some other things going on here. Let's show you how to set that up. You want to start with the traditional 6 ratchet disc set. And I just tipped it over on the noisemaker. Shimano's famous for these darn little noisemakers. You got to watch out for them. I didn't think that was going to happen, but it did. No problem, we found the parts. Check all of your teeth like you did on the pinion gear. Again, use fishing wheel grease. I'm using Penn Precision wheel grease for this. I'm just going to make sure that we get the grease on most of the teeth. You don't have to get it on all of them. And then we can set that main gear in place. With the main gear in place, we're going to alternate the drag washers with the metals. Kind of goes like this. First drag washer's in. Second one is round with a rectangular center. It's called a keyed washer. Next one up, drag washer. These are Carbon Tex washers. You do not need to grease or oil them. This one's got that little inset here now, so find where that noisemaker is going to go and then line it up accordingly so that goes around it and then seats into those slots. We can install that noisemaker now. There's a little spring that's going to go in the cavity first. Then there's this little rocket piece here. It tends to get lost easily. I'm going to use my micro pliers for that. I'm going to sit that in there. And that stem goes inside. So that's how your noisemaker is going to sit. And we put our last drag washer on. On the top one here, it's got a recess and it's got a bump up. The bump up faces out. Then we got the ring that's going to be the noisemaker goes on the outside of that. Let's see if there's anything fancy there. I think we go in reverse. I'm going to put the drag washer in, put the ring on, then bring this in. Yeah, because there's little bump outs here. So you need to merge those with the inner studs on this. There's 4 studs, you'll see them, 1, 2, 3, 4 indentations. And you can come back and take that inner collar or sleeve for your anti-reverse. So we've taken this inner part completely apart. We've examined it. The only thing we've done differently here, unfortunately. Oh, we're good. Getting ahead of myself. This is where pictures would help. We have that shim washer for the bearing goes underneath here. We have our 2 springs, 1 on each post for the yoke. And then we can close our case. Now you do not oil that anti-reverse clutch. You can oil the swing on this. If we haven't done it already, we may have already done that. Make sure your stud is in the up position so that it merges with the slot in your jack. I like to hold that down as I set the case back on. It sounds like it's set properly, and this is your bearing that we were talking about with that shield. And before I tighten this up, I want to make sure that I have this in the hole, so I'm going to slide this. As long as my pinion gear is retracting, we've got it correct. All right, we've got that set. We're going to grab our 4 screws that are going to hold that assembly. And well, we're going to tighten them up. And while I tighten them up, I want to encourage you to ask questions on this reel or any reel. Leave the questions in the comments section. I will try to answer those questions for you. Generally, generally I answer those questions in the morning. So if you're looking at this in the evening and maybe you said, oh gee, I'm working on a different reel, maybe you're working on a vintage reel or spinning reel or something, doesn't have to be this reel, and maybe you're getting stuck. Maybe you literally are stuck. Maybe you can't get a case off. Maybe something is binding when you go to reassemble your reel. Whatever it is, if you leave that question there in the morning, I do try to answer those before I start working on the reels in the shop. And for the most part, the questions get answered by noon. There's very few that I don't answer, so I would encourage you to do that. Okay, the bearing is up top. Now we're going to just kind of work back the way we came. We have a couple of those small shim washers that went on. Next. And we had the 2 big tension washers. These are cupped. I like to have the first cup face up. Second one face down. 1 more washer. That's going to be the base for the nut. Our adjuster nut. There's a ridge on the one side that's going to hold the spring. Make sure that that ridge is facing out. And you want to make sure that you get the nut square. Don't cross strip these. And for whatever reason, they're always tough to start up. At least for me. Maybe somebody out there's got a little bit better knack at it than I do. And then turn these by hand as far down as you can. The further down you get, the easier it will be to work with that mesh on the star adjuster itself. All right, there's a spring that sits over that then. Now we're going to take our star adjuster work it so that it sets itself onto that square nut. And hold it down. Get the handle and the nut cap. Again, do this by hand. That way you don't risk over tightening right away or running into an issue with the adjuster itself. Okay, next up then is our little cap. You have to tighten it down, and then you're going to have to make sure that the little cap works properly. You don't need to force it. It needs to sit on nice and easily. If it's not fitting, it means that the points on this are not merging. You have to play around just a little bit with it. There we go. This takes a little patience. And then we have our tie-down screw. Okay, that's the gear side service. Now what we want to do next is to install that onto the reel, and once we do that, we'll be able to take a test. Before you do that, just a little bit of grease onto the axle shaft coming off the spool. You want to locate the 4 holes. Generally you can do that because this is a solid metal piece off the back end of the frame that will merge with this. Remember, each of these screws has a little washer on it. These are Torx 8 size. So get your screwdriver and tighten that down. Whoops, that's not the 8. There you go. Probably should have put the other one back in the case, that way I don't lose it. And when I do this, I like to go high-low, kind of east-west, to keep equal tension on the case. I found when you go in a circular motion, sometimes you can bind the case, and well, that never works out well. 2 more screws, and we'll give it a test. So we removed that shock. So this thing should spin easily now rather than get caught up on the bottom of the frame. And one more, that little washer came off this one, so let's get that back on. And one more side here. Time to tighten it up. And you want to make sure that they've got good torque on them. Don't over tighten them, but make sure that they're nice and tight. Go back and check all of your work, just because boats will shake that off. Okay, well, here we go. Let's put it into free spool. Let's give it a spin, and you can see that it spins nice and easy. If you want to adjust, just back this off a little bit. It'll spin it faster. This one doesn't have any spool brakes on it. Great for casting, great for jigging. Let's put it in gear. Give it a turn. Nice, quiet operation. Let's make sure that the drags are holding. They are. And then, well, we can back that off and store it until it's time to go fishing. So that's it. That's our Shimano reel. It's a Shimano Ocean Jigger. It's the 1500 HG. And, well, it's ready to go fishing again. I hope you've enjoyed that. To our first responders and essential personnel, I thank you for everything it is that you do to keep us safe. I do appreciate your career choice and dedication to public safety, and thank you for it. To everybody else, saying welcome comments on the reels. I ask you to subscribe And more importantly, have a great day, get your tackle ready, enjoy your time on the water. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.